I always believed a family's strength came from togetherness, from the quiet moments people rarely notice, like shared breakfasts, late-night talks, or simply laughing over small things. But sometimes, behind the walls of a peaceful home, shadows grow unnoticed. My husband, Daniel, and our teenage daughter, Laura, had slowly drifted into their own world. I didn't realize how far apart we had grown until the day the truth slammed into me like a storm. That morning began like any other. I prepared breakfast while Daniel scrolled through his phone, barely responding to my words. Laura rushed around the house, avoiding eye contact, her energy a mixture of nervousness and irritation. Something was off. But I convinced myself it was stress, school or work, a life. I didn't know that within a few hours, the ground under my feet would shift completely. It started with a message, a small notification on Daniel's phone when he stepped out to the garage. Normally, I wouldn't even touch his phone, but the preview displayed something impossible to ignore. I can't wait to see you again tonight. The name wasn't saved. Just a number. But the message felt like a knife. My heart pounded, and my hands trembled as I tried to breathe through the shock. I didn't open the phone fully. I didn't have the courage. My mind raced with possibilities, excuses, explanations. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, a spam message, anything but what it looked like. But that hope shattered when I heard Laura whispering on the phone upstairs. "Yeah. Mom still doesn't know. That says she never pays attention." I froze, another crack inside me. My daughter. My own blood. Keeping a secret with him? For a moment, I couldn't move. The air around me felt thinner. I listened as she continued quietly. "He said he'll tell her after the weekend. I just don't want to see her cry." The world blurred around me. My family, the two people I loved the most, were preparing to break me. I stepped back silently, gripping the banister for balance. My mind replayed every odd moment from the past few months. The late meetings. The sudden perfume on Daniel's shirts. The way Laura avoided me whenever I asked simple questions. Everything fit now. They weren't just hiding something. They were hiding someone. And then Daniel walked in, cheerful as if nothing was wrong, greeting me with the same cold half-smile he had been giving me for months. I looked at him differently now. Not as my husband, but as a stranger carrying a truth he planned to drop on me like a bomb. Rehook. But what I didn't know was that the truth I feared was only the beginning. Someone else knew the full story, and they were about to bring it straight to my doorstep. I spent the rest of that morning walking around the house like a ghost, trying to make sense of the storm rising inside me. Every time I looked at Daniel or Laura, the conversations I had overheard echoed in my mind. Their smiles felt like masks. Their voices sounded rehearsed. And the silence between us, heavier than ever. By noon, Daniel announced he had an urgent meeting. He avoided my eyes as he spoke. "I won't be long," he said casually, grabbing his keys. My heart squeezed painfully. I wanted to ask him, wanted to confront him, but a strange fear held me back. What if I wasn't ready for the answer? "Okay," I replied, pretending to be calm. The moment he left, Laura quickly went upstairs to her room, shutting the door as if she didn't want to be anywhere near me. I could hear her pacing, whispering, sometimes laughing softly into the phone. Not the normal teen laugh. This one sounded nervous, uneasy. I sat in the living room, staring at the front door, waiting, hoping maybe someone would walk in and say this was all a misunderstanding. But instead, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" I said softly. A woman's voice came through, quiet at first, then steady, almost too steady. Is this Mrs. Carter? My breath stopped. Yes, I replied cautiously. Who is this? There was a long pause, the kind that only comes before life-changing words. My name is Evelyn, she said. I think you need to know something about your husband. The room began spinning. I swallowed hard. I'm listening. Her voice trembled slightly as she continued. I didn't know he was married. When I found out, I ended things immediately. But he kept contacting me. Kept insisting it was complicated at home. I didn't want to hurt you, but I think it's time you knew. My chest tightened painfully. Every fear I had been trying to bury was now alive, spoken out loud by a stranger. I'm so sorry, she whispered. If I had known, I would never have. I closed my eyes, tears filling them. I understand, I managed to whisper. Thank you for telling me. Before she hung up, she said one last thing. He planned something today. Please, be careful. When the call ended, the house felt colder, heavier, almost threatening. I wiped my tears, trying to steady my breath. Then suddenly, the front door clicked. Daniel was home. Earlier than he said. And his expression wasn't the usual distant calm. He looked nervous. Almost cornered. And that's when I realized. He knew. He knew the truth was slipping out of his control. Rehook. But what Daniel didn't know was that I wasn't the only one who had heard the truth. Someone else had been watching his every move, and they were about to reveal the part of the story even I wasn't prepared for. Daniel stepped inside the house with a stiffness I had never seen before. His eyes darted around the room as if checking whether something had changed in his absence. Maybe he sensed the heaviness in the air, or maybe guilt has a strange way of sharpening a person's intuition. You're home early, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Meeting got cancelled, he replied too quickly, avoiding my gaze. For a moment, silence stretched between us, thick, awkward, unsettling. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the weight of Evelyn's words still echoing inside me. He finally looked at me. Not lovingly. Not with warmth. But with the tension of someone bracing for impact. Everything okay? He asked, tone falsely calm. I almost laughed. I wanted to ask, is there anything else you'd like to hide? But I simply nodded. Yes. Everything's fine. His shoulders relaxed, just slightly. Enough to remind me how confident he had become in the belief that I would never question him. Before either of us could speak again, there was a sharp knock at the door. Daniel froze. I walked over and opened it slowly, and saw a man standing there. Mid-40s, sharply dressed, holding a folder under his arm. His eyes were calm, but there was something in them, a depth, an understanding, as if he already knew what was happening inside our home. Mrs. Carter? He asked gently. Yes? My name is Jonah Pierce. I'm a private investigator. Daniel's face drained of color. My breath stopped. Jonah continued, I've been trying to reach you for days, but your husband intercepted most of my attempts. Daniel stepped forward angrily. You have no right to be here. Jonah didn't flinch. I have every right when a client hires me. I blinked. A client hired you? Jonah nodded. Someone concerned for your safety. Someone who believed you deserved the full truth. My hands trembled slightly as I stepped aside and let him in. Daniel's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. Jonah opened the folder slowly, placing it on the table between us. This is about more than an affair, he said quietly. My stomach twisted. These documents show financial transfers, hidden accounts, and signed agreements, all prepared without your knowledge. Daniel snapped, stop talking. But Jonah continued calmly. He was planning to move out. And he wasn't going alone. My voice cracked. What do you mean, not alone? Jonah looked at me with a kind of sadness I didn't understand. He wasn't just leaving with another woman. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. He was planning to take Laura with him. Everything inside me shattered. Laura. My daughter. My baby. The room felt colder. My knees weakened. The betrayal I thought had already reached its limit suddenly grew deeper, darker, and far more terrifying. Daniel looked away, jaw tight, saying nothing. His silence was the loudest confession of all. Rehook. But what Jonah revealed next wasn't about money or an affair. It was about a decision Daniel made months ago, one that put all of our lives at risk without my knowledge. My heart pounded as Jonah flipped to the next page in his folder. Daniel stood rigid, his fists tight, his breathing sharp. Laura hovered at the top of the stairs, frozen halfway down, as if she had heard enough to know something terrible was unraveling. I swallowed hard. What do you mean our lives were at risk? Jonah glanced at Daniel before answering. Several months ago, your husband signed his name on a financial agreement connected to a private investment group. Daniel snapped, don't you dare. But Jonah continued, voice steady and unshaken. This wasn't a normal business deal. The group is under investigation for laundering money through fake partnerships. Anyone tied to them, partners, signatories, even family members, gets dragged into the investigation. My stomach hollowed out. You're saying, he involved me? I whispered. Jonah nodded. Your name was placed on a secondary beneficiary form. Without your consent. Legally, that ties you to the group if things go wrong. My hands trembled uncontrollably. Daniel stepped forward, voice rising. I did it to protect you. To protect me? I said, disbelief cracking my voice. By putting my name on an illegal contract? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Jonah spoke instead. The group is collapsing, fast. And Daniel knew it. That's why he planned to leave. Laura stumbled down the last steps, tears forming in her eyes. Dad, you told me Mom wouldn't understand. Daniel spun around. You were never supposed to hear this. But she did. And now the truth was unraveling faster than he could contain it. I turned to Jonah, desperate. What else? What aren't you telling me? Jonah hesitated for the first time. He pulled out a small envelope, worn, creased, as if handled too many times. This arrived at my office yesterday morning, he said quietly. No return address. Just your name on it. He handed it to me gently. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside was a single photo. Daniel, sitting in a restaurant, with a woman leaning into him. Not Evelyn. Someone else. A woman I had never seen before. But the photo wasn't what shattered me. It was the note scrawled on the back. He told me you would be gone soon. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened painfully. Gone? What did that mean? I looked up at Daniel, who suddenly refused to meet my eyes. Daniel, I whispered, voice trembling. Oh, what did you tell her? What were you planning? He stepped back. Just one step. But it was enough. Jonah moved slightly, placing himself between us, as if he sensed a threat I hadn't yet understood. Laura cried out, Dad, please say something. But Daniel stayed silent, because silence was the only thing left when the truth becomes too heavy to lie about. Rehook. And then Jonah delivered the final blow, the part of the story he had saved for last. A truth so dark, so unforgivable, that once spoken, nothing in our home would ever be the same again. Jonah's expression shifted, calm, but heavy with something he'd been holding back. It was the look of a man who knew the next words he spoke would shatter whatever illusion of normalcy still existed in our home. He closed the folder slowly and looked at me with quiet seriousness. Mrs. Carter, before I tell you this, I want you to know something. None of what happened is your fault. You didn't cause it. You didn't deserve it. You were kept in the dark. My throat tightened. Daniel paced near the stairs like a trapped animal. Laura pressed herself against the wall, tears streaming down her face, unsure who to believe or what to feel. Just say it, I whispered. My voice was thin, barely holding itself together. Jonah took a breath. For the last 8 months, Daniel has been transferring money, not just to another woman, but to a private medical account. Medical? I repeated, stunned. Is he sick? Jonah shook his head. No. The person he was supporting was. I stared at him, confused, until he added, a child. My knees nearly buckled. Or child? The word felt heavy, unreal. Jonah nodded slowly. Yes. A little boy. 4 years old. The room blurred around me. The world seemed to tilt. Daniel stopped pacing. His eyes flashed with something. Panic, guilt, or both. Stop it, Jonah. You're twisting everything. Jonah raised a hand sharply, silencing him. The boy's mother contacted me 2 weeks ago. She didn't know he was still married. She thought he was separated. She thought you knew. Daniel swore under his breath, running a shaky hand through his hair. I shook my head, barely able to speak. You're saying he has a son? Jonah's answer was soft but firm. Yes. A roar, painful silence filled the room. I stared at Daniel, my voice breaking. You had another child, and you didn't think I deserved to know? It wasn't like that, he snapped. You don't understand. How could I? I whispered. You never gave me the chance. Laura sobbed loudly, covering her face. Dad, please tell me this isn't true. But Daniel couldn't look at her. Or me. Jonah continued, his tone gentler now. The child has a rare condition. The mother reached out because she can't afford the treatment alone. She thought Daniel was preparing to bring you into the truth. She thought he was honest with you. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. Daniel whispered, I was going to tell you, just not like this. Jonah's gaze narrowed. Tell her? Or leave her before she found out? Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. I suddenly understood the message Evelyn had given me. The hidden accounts. The forced secrecy. The panic in Daniel's eyes today. He wasn't just planning to leave. He was planning to start over, with a new family. And we were merely loose ends. I felt something inside me break, not loudly, but with a quiet, final snap hook. But Jonah hadn't come alone, and when the second unexpected visitor stepped into the doorway, the truth behind Daniel's darkest secret finally came face to face with us all. Before I could gather the strength to speak, another shadow appeared in the doorway. A soft knock, almost hesitant, echoed through the tense silence of our living room. Jonah stepped aside, and there she was. A woman in her late 20s, eyes tired, hair pulled back in a loose bun, clutching a small jacket in her hands. Fear and guilt were written all over her face. And behind her, holding onto her sweater with one tiny hand, stood a little boy. 4 years old. Quiet. Wide-eyed. Fragile. My breath stopped. Jonah turned to me. This is MIA, and her son, Lucas. The boy peeked out timidly before hiding again behind his mother's leg. MIA swallowed hard and whispered, I didn't want to come like this, but I wasn't given any choice. Daniel's face twisted in shock. You weren't supposed to be here. MIA looked hurt, but she stood her ground. You told me you were going to explain everything today. You promised. Her voice cracked on the last word. I stared at Daniel in disbelief. So this is the woman? The mother of your child? He covered his face with both hands. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Daniel? I snapped. My voice rose not from anger, but from the kind of heartbreak that destroys everything in its path. Tell me what part of this I'm misunderstanding. MEA stepped forward gently. I'm not here to fight you, as she said. I didn't come to take anything from you. I thought you knew. I thought he told you months ago. Tears welled in her eyes. When he said things were complicated. I believed him. I thought he was trying to protect you. Jonah added quietly. She contacted him last week about Lucas' condition. The boy's treatment was denied unless both parents signed the approval forms. My heart clenched as I looked at the child again. He was holding a small toy car, running it across the edge of the couch, completely unaware of the chaos surrounding him. Laura stepped down shakily. Her voice was barely a whisper. You have a brother? Daniel's silence was answer enough. Laura broke down, collapsing on the steps. You lied to me too. You lied to everyone. MEA wiped her eyes and spoke again, her voice trembling. I came because Lucas is getting worse. And he needs both of you. Legally. Daniel can't sign everything alone. I sat down slowly, the weight of everything crushing down on me. Not only had Daniel betrayed me. Not only had he created another life behind my back. But he had dragged an innocent child into the disaster of his choices. Jonah placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. There's something else you need to know, he said softly. Daniel looked up sharply. Jonah, don't. But Jonah's voice didn't waver. The medical forms Daniel refused to sign last month, they listed you as the emergency guardian. My blood ran cold. Me? I whispered. Why me? Jonah nodded. Because Daniel disappeared for 3 days. He left MIA alone with the responsibility, and she put your name down as the only trustworthy adult she knew. The room spun. I stared at MEA, stunned. And she nodded through her tears. I've seen the way he talks about you, the way he takes advantage of you. I didn't want to be like him. I needed someone stable. Someone kind. Someone who cares. And I thought of you. The boy looked up at me, small, innocent, fragile. And for the first time, I saw the truth. This wasn't just betrayal. This was abandonment. This was responsibility. This was a child who needed saving. Rehook. But the real shock came when MEA revealed the one thing Daniel never expected her to say aloud, the reason he was truly planning to disappear, and the person he owed money to. MEA took a deep, shaky breath, her fingers tightening around her son's small jacket. Jonah stepped closer, giving her a reassuring nod, encouraging her to speak. Daniel, however, looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, terrified of the final push. Mia's voice trembled as she began. Daniel wasn't just planning to leave you, or me, or Laura. She swallowed hard. He was planning to run because someone dangerous is looking for him. I felt my heart thump painfully. Dangerous? What do you mean? MEA looked directly at me, eyes filled with fear. He owes money. A lot of money. To people who don't forgive easily. Daniel snapped. Stop it, MEA. You don't know what you're talking about. She turned toward him sharply. I know exactly what I'm talking about. You borrowed from them to cover Luca's hospital bills. I begged you not to, but you said it was our only option. Jonah added quietly, as she's telling the truth. Daniel's face drained of color. You don't know what they're capable of. I was trying to fix things before. Before what? I whispered. Before they came for you? Or before they came for us? Laura looked terrified now. She moved closer to me instinctively. Emma continued, her voice steadier now that the truth had started to spill out. They gave him a deadline. One he couldn't meet. And instead of facing them, he planned to disappear. To take Laura with him. To leave me here alone with a sick child. And to leave you with all the consequences. A cold chill ran through me. Disappear? Where? Jonah opened another document. A one-way ticket to Mexico. Booked under another name. Daniel shook his head rapidly. You don't understand. I was going to send for you later. For who? I snapped. For your secret family? For your daughter? For your wife? Daniel had no answer. MEA wiped her eyes and continued. He promised them he'd have the money by next month. But he didn't tell them the truth. He didn't tell them he has nothing left. No savings. No backup plan. Nothing. Jonah added, Ian, when people like this don't get paid. He stopped. We all knew how that sentence ended. Laura whispered, Mom, are we in danger? I pulled her close. I don't know yet, sweetheart. Jonah then revealed the final piece, one I didn't expect at all. The group he owes isn't just after their money. They have the documents Daniel signed. Documents with your name on them. They're planning to make you responsible. My heart dropped. They think I can pay? I asked. Yes. Because Daniel told them you had an inheritance. Jonah paused. He lied to survive, but he put a target on you. Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating. Then MIA whispered the words Daniel never wanted anyone to hear. "They're coming in 3 days." Daniel flinched. Because he knew she wasn't lying. Jonah stepped forward, his voice firm. "We don't have time. We need to act now." Rehook. And just when I thought the truth was complete, Jonah delivered one final revelation about someone else involved in Daniel's secrets, someone living much closer than any of us realized. The house was heavy with silence as Jonah and MIA waited for my response. Outside, the sky had begun to darken, casting long shadows across the living room floor. Daniel stood like a man cornered by his own lies, shifting anxiously, unable to look at any of us. Laura clung to my arm, her entire world shaken. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Strength. Not the loud kind. Not the angry kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes when a person decides they're done being broken. I looked at Jonah first. "What do we do now?" I asked. He nodded, as if he'd been waiting for those exact words. "I've already filed a report. Your name will be cleared from the dangerous documents Daniel used. You won't be legally tied to his debts anymore." He glanced at Daniel. "But he will." Daniel stiffened. "You can't do that. You think they'll just leave her alone?" Jonah stared him down. "They're already leaving her alone. I made sure of it." MEA stepped forward gently. "I know this isn't fair to you, but Lucas needs treatment immediately. I don't have anyone else. And I don't want Daniel alone with him anymore." Her voice broke. I looked at the small boy, innocent, unaware of the chaos his existence had stirred. His tiny fingers held the toy car tightly as he peeked at me from behind his mother. He wasn't at fault. He didn't choose any of this. I knelt down and gently reached out my hand. "Hi, Lucas." He stared at me for a moment before shyly placing his little hand in mine. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. A warmth. A clarity. A realization. "This child deserves better," I whispered. MIA nodded through tears. "Yes, he does." Jonah spoke again, his voice calm but final. "Daniel will have to face the consequences. Legally and personally. If he stays, the danger stays. If he leaves, or you and Laura stay safe." Daniel's voice cracked. "Please, don't do this. I can fix it." "No," I said firmly. "You can't. Not anymore." He flinched at the tone of my voice. A tone I hadn't used in years. I stood tall, lifting my daughter's hand into mine. "This home, this family, is no longer yours to break." Daniel stared at me, eyes wide, not with anger, but with the realization that he had finally lost control. "We're done," I said softly but powerfully. "And this time, you don't get to walk away with lies. You walk away with the truth." Jonah placed a protective hand on my back. "You and Laura will be safe," he promised. Emia held Lucas close, whispering something to him as he rested his head against a shoulder. I took a deep breath as a final calm settled over the room. For the first time in years. The fear left my chest. The weight lifted. The future looked possible again, not perfect, but mine. I turned to the door, Laura's hand in mine, and took the first step toward a new life. One without lies. One without secrets. One where I finally chose myself.